For the past 10 years, caregivers at Boston Medical Center have been trying to narrow the gap on health equity for local families, especially those with small children. Over time, the effort has expanded into a number of residents and organizations known as Vital Village Networks. With an eye toward new possibilities and needs emerging with the pandemic, the organization will hold a leadership summit October 26th and 27th. The title is Our Future, Our Communities. To tell us what's planned is the group's senior network coordinator, Yusuf Ali. Thank you very much for being with us, Yusuf.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to just share a little bit more and talk about Vital Village. We're in the community. I know it's been in the last 10 years, but the work that we're doing has transformed. So this is still kind of giving people a new look on what we're doing, especially within more of a virtual space this year. But overall, we're a network of organizations, we're a network of families, children, community members within the community that work with children and families. And overall, we're all really focused on how can we change the systems that affect children and families and really try to expand the leadership models for parents and caregivers that are looking to get more involved. Also looking at access to career paths for parents and family members that are looking to advance in that space as well. But overall, anything that benefits children and families within the city, specifically Dorchester, Mattapan, and Roxbury, are all within the space of who we work with and where we work with.
I want to ask you about the underlying goal in this organization, because it's not just about closing a gap in care. This is about closing gaps in wealth, access to food, civic engagement. I'm almost tempted to say respect. Isn't that what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. We really look at a lens of just being very strength-based, the way that we work with community members, and a lot of equity and just strategy goes into our work that's led by community members. So the work that we do, we like to say is shared work. We have staff that are paid to really work with community members, work with leaders that have really great ideas and are really in on the ground level. We kind of have an idea that it's not an original idea, but we really honor that those that are closest to the problems are often those that have the solutions and are closest and need to be heard. And we really work to just make sure that those voices, and just past those voices, but that those voices lead to changes in policy and those voices lead to advocacy in the work that we do. So yeah, as you mentioned, work with food, work with housing, work with access to just equity across a lot of fields where, whether it's health, whether it's industries that are just have barriers for people in the community. A lot of that is what our work is really focused on.
Well, the organization is not just a stack of nonprofits. It's also city residents. And what's in it for these residents in this upcoming summit? Why should they be connecting and paying attention?
Yeah, so I think that is a very unique way that our work happens. It's really led on a lot of those different platforms. So that will transfer directly over to the summit. So you'll see there will be people that are brought in to be high-level experts in certain areas, but most of the work and most of the areas within the Leadership Summit will directly come from our community heroes. They'll directly come from organizations and leaders that people are used to seeing and places that people are used to going. I can share some organizations and some people, but also I do want to make sure that it's still some surprise when people register and find out, oh, my favorite organization is here, or a person who I know from the community is here. But just for example, on some of the panels, we'll have representatives from College Bound Dorchester. We'll have some people that are speaking from Boston School Finder, Conservation Law Foundation, representation from Boston Medical Center as well, Union of Minority Neighborhoods, the Chica Project. And those are just a few of the organizations that are not necessarily your traditional organizations that people are just used to hearing from, but also like do a lot of ground level work within the community.
Well, a lot of the territory being covered in the summit is very timely. It's things that people have been struggling with during the pandemic, whether that could be education, workplace safety, maybe even mental illness. Can you tell me a little bit about how that's going to be reflected in the summit?
Yeah, that's really great observation. We actually came up with the focus of this leadership summit from community members. So that's also something that's different. Our 100% of our direction came from local members that are part of our steering committee. So when we originally, so this is the 7th annual leadership summit, and every year it does shift depending on what people feel is really important and what's happening in the community. So just with the pandemic that happened and really seeing how community really stood up and really said, these are the things that we're seeing, that's directly where the design came from. So just seeing that people were doing work in these spaces before, but their work kind of shifted a little bit to a space where we'll kind of be able to uplift those stories. There'll be places where those stories can be told, and not just from adults, but also from young voices, for them to be able to share how this experience is influenced them during this time as well. So that's a little bit different too. This is also directly for, when we say for children, it's not just for parents of children. There'll be tracks of this leadership summit that children will be able to participate in as well.
I want to pick up on the name Vital Villages here because the word vital seems very applicable. We've seen for the past several months a lot of protests, but a lot of energy behind those. And how does that tie into what you're covering in this summit?
Yeah, yeah, it's so there's a huge push in our work that is targeted around social justice. That's just, it's not directly part of our organizational word when you hear vital, but the village is the community, the people, you know, it came from the term, it takes a community, it takes a village to raise a child. So just seeing that our village, our community is one thing. So it's kind of just a modern version of how that village used to be, is just seeing the present day community and really just seeing how, whether it's technology justice, environmental justice, social justice, it's really all things that are coming from the members of the community that are in places of leadership, but also just people that have real concerns, that have children and are saying, whether it's what things that are going on with their schools, or whether it's things that are happening online in the virtual space as well. These will all be things that we talk about, and not just us talk about, but there'll be real places where people can engage and network and really have some real genuine opportunities to just learn and share with each other.
You know, we have a tendency to think of leadership as large numbers, loud voices, but in the first day of the summit, there's going to be a keynote speech about calling in as leadership. Now, we're familiar with calling out, but why is calling in so important?
Yeah, I think we really just look at ways to acknowledge the different levels of leadership, and especially virtually, that has changed a lot, where a lot of times you just see a person talking and think that that's the only way that leadership shows up, is just the person that's in that position where I'm trying to get a message across to you. But we're really trying to just highlight that there are levels within each, the way just showing up and being yourself, like 100% authentically yourself, is one level of leadership. And also the levels of what you bring when you're just showing up in a space where everything that you've done and contributed already has made you the person that you are. So really just focusing on the aspects of leadership and what that looks like, and not necessarily the traditional viewpoint of kind of high, like top level, this is what a leader looks like, and really just showing people that these are all ways that leadership shows up. And I think the importance of it even more now when you look at a lot of things that are happening within the civic engagement levels of really being a leader shows I'm a leader within my family, whether I'm a leader within a community organization that I'm a part of, or whether I'm just a member of something. It doesn't take away from my voice, and it doesn't take away from the ideas that I have that, can really make a difference. So that's what we really want people to get from this.
Now, if people want to take part in this event, what does that mean, both in terms of access and how much time it might involve?
So this year is very unique. It's going to be a full 2 days. So that'll be both that Monday, the 26th, and Tuesday, the 27th. For people that are watching this, that are within the community, we have a multiple levels, that ways that people can participate. So it's not a full 2-day commitment from you. If you only have a limited amount of time, you're able to register. We have different levels. So if a person's in the community and that's how they identify, there's free community champion tickets that are available. If someone's a student and that's how they identify, there's free tickets for students. We do have some paid tickets that are going to be more for your corporate level people and also for the government officials and larger nonprofits. But if it's just people that are looking at this and say, hey, I want to learn more, and I'm a community member, I'm a student, it'll be free for them. And you can choose whether you want a couple of hours this day or a couple of hours this day, because we do understand people are still homeschooling, people are working from home. So if it's just an hour that you have, once you're able to register, it'll also be recorded, so it'll be available to you later. So we really want people to register, get what you can get live, and then as the follow-up, it'll be made available to you as well.
And finally, Yusuf, is there a place online where they can get more details on this?
Yeah, 100%. So it's vitalvillagesummit2020.org, and I can just spell it out. It's Vital Village, which is VITALVILLAGE, summit2020.org. And from that website, you'll be able to learn more about the summit. You'll be able to learn more about who are some of the keynote speakers, and also just be able to register that way as well.
Well, thank you very much for taking your time and explaining the work by Vital Village Networks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And just to say, I really do appreciate being in. I'm a member within the community. I really appreciate the opportunities to just share what we have and to really connect with the listeners and the watchers. So we hope we're able to connect with as many people as possible. And thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. That was Yusuf Ali from Vital Village Networks. We'll have more news in just a moment.